Joining us now, Roger Stone, political operative, world-renowned speaker, New York Times best-selling author. He joins us now. I'm delighted he's with us. Happy New Year, Roger. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Laura. Many thanks for having me on.
Always love it. Okay, your take. Bannon, Trump, war of words.
Well, sadly, I must reach the conclusion that if Steve said everything attributable to him, and that's a big if because the author Michael Wolff has a bad reputation for fabrication. He has fabricated things about me in the past in some of his writing. Mm-hmm. But putting that aside, it just shows me that Steve really doesn't understand Donald Trump, which is not surprising because he supported Ted Cruz early and came to the Trump banner only late. Now, I like Steve Bannon. He's a friend of mine. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but we have probably a closer worldview than most. But it's important to understand that in Trump world, there is no Karl Rove. There never was. Donald Trump is not a confection. He's not a career politician. He's not a public figure reading talking points written by someone else. So therefore, just even calling yourself chief strategist is somewhat of a misnomer because Donald Trump is his own chief strategist. He's also his own speechwriter, his own phrase maker, his own press secretary in many senses. And he's obviously very good at it because he took on the well-oiled Clinton machine and the mainstream media that was working hand in glove with them. And against all odds, he defeated them. So it's disappointing, I guess I would say. The irony, of course, is that this book comes out at a time where between the collapse of the credibility of the Mueller probe, based on the many emails and texts that prove that this is just a partisan hit squad, a soaring economy, record stock market, unemployment at all-time lows, even with the phony counting system they have, and the president on a high. I've heard of kicking a man when he's down. Very rarely have I seen anybody kick a man when he's up.
Well, I think that's the whole point. I mean, the book was timed to come out in January. But the thing that I find so shocking about this is it doesn't help Donald Trump. It doesn't help him. And it doesn't help Steve Bannon. And it doesn't help advance the conservative populist agenda. I mean, I said this last night on TV. I don't see it.
Fratricide is a bad idea. And if Trump supporters want to form the firing squad in a circle, it would be to their detriment. I mean, look, we can understand Joe Scarborough. The sad truth is, during the entire time he was in Congress, Joe Scarborough talked about running for president. Joe Scarborough assured his successor for the congressional seat that he would run for president. When Donald Trump was nominated, Joe Scarborough thought Joe Scarborough, should have been nominated. When Donald Trump chose Mike Pence for vice president, Joe Scarborough thought Joe Scarborough, should be vice president. What you see is an example of jealousy and bitterness, where you have Joe and Mika, who previously were brown-nosing the president like there was no tomorrow. Indeed, Dina Habib Powell gets her job improbably in a Trump White House on the recommendation of Mika Brzezinski. Never did understand that. Now they've turned on the president, but it's all out of personal pique. The president's dumb. The president's non-compos mentis. The president's mentally unstable. No, Joe, you're the one who's mentally unstable.
Well, I have friends who actually worked for him, and let's just say the idea of Trump being someone who's impatient and doesn't tolerate fools and unnecessary delays and can lose his cool sometimes. Try to do the wrong thing around Scarborough and see what happens to you. And look, I'm not saying I'm any walk in the park either, by the way, Roger, but at least I admit it. I hold the bar really high for people, and then I love them up. But But come on, I mean, this Scarborough is. And I love how Scarborough, by the way, was saying, well, the president's not being honest with the American people, and he's in his all these closed door meetings. We don't know who he's meeting with at his golf course. And meanwhile, they kept their relationship secret over there at MSNBC for how long? Denying that they were a romantic item and pulling the wool over the eyes of the viewers and pretending it was this innocent romantic interplay or exchange. Come on.
Well, what's interesting is you watch them on TV in the mornings, and I do, because it's always good to know what the enemy's doing.
Yeah.
When Joe is speaking to Trump via camera, look at the look on Mika's face. It is a look of sheer hatred. It is just, it's
hatred of
chilling.
Joe or Trump?
It's so icy.
Hatred of Joe or Trump? Just kidding.
Well, no, hatred of Trump.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Although anything is possible.
Yeah.
Look, here's what people cannot get their head around. Yes, Donald Trump is an eccentric. Yes, he does things his way. Yes, he is not like every other president that you can think of who was packaged, who was fabricated, who was being handed, polling and focus groups and discussions of how to say things that would make you popular. He's more like Andrew Jackson. He's genuine. He's authentic. He's real. Yeah, he's got a temper, no question about it. He also got himself elected president, which, to my knowledge, is probably the only real estate magnate who's ever done that, against enormous odds by taking on the two-party duopoly and the elites of both parties who have, let's face it, run the country into the ground. He's a genius. But unfortunately, Steve Bannon does not be able to see that, because I think Steve is looking for the old mold. Perhaps he thought because the president can sometimes be unsophisticated about politics, that's fair to say, that Steve, could act as a de facto president. But the sad truth is, the president settled on his issue agenda for this campaign, immigration, the wall, revitalizing the economy, and so on, long before Steve Bannon joined the entourage. It is Trump who came up with the Make America Great agenda. No one else.
Roger Stone, it is so great to have you on. Come back soon. Happy New Year. Just love your analysis, and we cherish the fact that you join us so regularly. Thank you so much. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show.